Hello.
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 Hello. Welcome to the Bears, Birds, and Brews podcast. This is a show about Chicago Bears, the Atlanta Falcons, and craft beer. My name is Scofflaw. My co-host is
Nabil Lalani.
our producer is,
Nader Wazir.
and on today's episode we have a very special guest with us. It's the Logo himself. Introduce yourself, Mr. Logo.
My name is Arslan Lakhani, longtime listener, first time being on the show. And I've pretty much grown up with these guys, so I know them pretty well. So let's see how this goes.
Yeah, and if the last name sounds familiar, Arslan and I are related, but not only do I have backup in that sense, but he's also a Falcons fan, so I finally got some backup on the show. I'm not outnumbered for our Falcons listeners out there. Finally got some support. But we got a lot to talk about on today's show. We got so much to talk about. First things first, we're going to talk about some news and notes, and then we're going to talk about the Falcons new uniform. We're going to talk about the NFL draft, mock draft stuff, and then we're going to preview what's coming up next week, which is super awesome. But before we do all that, as always, we're going to talk about the beer. And Arslan, since you're the guest, why don't you go first and tell us what you're drinking from your home brewery today?
So I am drinking my Old Faithful. This is the Pog Basement, sitting at 7.5%. It's an IPA. It's pretty much like beach in a can. That's what they advertise it as. The Pog stands for passion, fruit, orange, guava. Scofflaw is a very well-known local brewery, and I've been doing my part to support the locals as much as I can. So, yep.
Oh, yeah. No, that's awesome. I'll go ahead and go next. And I've got the Hopprodisiac. So a Hoppy Easter to all of our Easter listeners out there. The Hopprodisiac is from Akadmia Brewing Company in Athens. Kind of hard to get down here in Atlanta, but this is a modern hops drop, actually. This was supposed to get back to the Juice Fest, and this is on the can, it says this is a hazy double IPA with Citra and Mosaic hops. If you've been listening to the show for the last couple weeks, you know that this style of beer is my current obsession, so I was super excited when I got to see this. It smells really great in my room office recording studio right now.
Does it have a melon aroma? Because that's what they say online. It should smell.
Yeah, very melon. The Atlanta United Glass is getting all the melon. And this is a 8.2 ABV. So ready to have a good time today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good number for a double.
Oh, yeah.
Asa's going to be slurring by the end of the episode.
Let's get. I got plenty of writing to do, so it's perfect. Let's get on with it, you know what I mean?
His writing will be in italics.
Not on purpose either.
But what are you drinking, bro?
It's from the Brewing Projekt. It's a double IPA. It's from their series called Things of That Nature. This one is Intensive Purposes. Pretty cool name. It's dry hopped with Mateca and Eldorado hops. It's a pretty hoppy, pretty very easy drinking. I couldn't find the ABV, but I'm sure it exists. And it smells delicious.
It's much lighter color than
yeah, it's a cool looking beer.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to yours, everything's a lighter color.
What's that?
And on and going forward.
Oh, yeah. So the biggest news of the week is the Bulls made some major changes actually in the front office. They got rid of their GM of 10 years.
22 years.
Well, he's been in the organization for 22 years.
Yeah.
And then he was a GM for 10 years. I believe that's right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, big news out of Chicago, which is the timing of it is pretty crazy considering that there is no NBA right now, but the NBA is still making headlines. One, we all know the Jordan documentary is going to premiere next week, so all eyes on Chicago next week for the next 5 weeks as we wait the highly anticipated Jordan documentary, The Last Dance, on ESPN. But yeah, the Bulls have made some moves, and so for a franchise that has a pretty loyal following and constantly sells out games and has some of the highest attendance in the NBA, people were still not happy with the way that things were operating, so they finally made a change. And
Yeah.
Nabil, I'm sure you've got a lot to say about that.
Yeah, so first thing that we did get the Denver Nuggets GM, Karnasova. I still don't know the correct pronunciation, but I'm sure going to get it sooner or later. He's had a lot of really interesting moves in his time in Denver. Some moves that look kind of good, some moves that looks kind of bad. Some of the highlights, he did make the trade with the Bulls to get Jurkic, which, Jurkic is one of the better players in the league right now. But, he also did trade away Donovan Mitchell. So it's pros and cons. But what I'm just hoping that he built a team through the draft with Jamal Murray, again, Jurkic. And I kind of want to see if he can do that in Chicago because, as everyone knows, Chicago isn't the NBA free agent destination that everyone thinks it should be.
Yeah.
Right, even though
it should be. So the draft has to be where we're going to build the team until we have something where we can get free agents.
Well, and two things I'd like to add to that in the bill. One is, at least according to Real GM, this guy who's from Lithuania, the guy from the Nuggets, is going to be the executive vice president of basketball operations for the Bulls. So potentially another GM or a proper GM will be named later on. You would think presumably before the NBA draft later this summer. But I guess, you're kind of late in the game by doing this now anyway. So we'll see what happens with that. And then two, you said that Chicago hasn't been a free agent destination for a lot of guys in the last few years. And apparently some of this is because of the GM that they had. And he had a reputation around the league. So I think obviously people know that Chicago is a great city. We know that Chicago is a great city. It's three of the four of us on today's episode were born in Chicago. That's why this podcast exists the way that it does.
Not me. Take that back.
There you go.
Three of us.
Yeah.
I was born in the old country, bro.
Yeah, 3 out of the 4 of us, which is awesome. But Paul Gasol went to Chicago because he loved it there. Kobe obviously thought about going to Chicago before he signed his extension with the Lakers. So maybe with a new GM and obviously an executive vice president who, saw Jordan and Pippen play internationally back in those days, I think Bulls fans have a lot to look forward to, and I think a lot of guys in the NBA will now give Chicago some consideration, especially like you said in the bill when the draft is going to be how the team builds moving forward. So there's a lot of positive things coming for that franchise, hopefully soon.
Yeah. And if I can have my first bold prediction in, the past 2 months, bold prediction, there will be a major piece in Chicago move this offseason, be it Zach LaVine, be it Lauri Markkanen, be it Wendell Carter. I know that's not as big, but, he was a very high draft pick. Because I feel like teams are going to be hesitant with high draft picks. They'll be kind of scared because of the whole COVID thing. They can't really see players. If a team needs a third option, they may trade their first-round pick for Zach LaVine, which is more of a proven commodity than what the draft could provide this year. And that might be the Bulls' gamble for the rebuild to be, sped up. Bold prediction. One of the 3 pieces are going to be traded this offseason in Chicago.
It also makes sense because considering, where the Bulls are with the young talent that they have, obviously I don't think they're moving that far ahead with the young talent that they have, and they obviously have a lot, like you mentioned. But they've got really good assets in Zach LaVine, especially young, good assets that could really help a championship team go that distance. So it's probably a better move for the team that does make the trade, and a good move for Chicago as well to kind of, build from the draft going forward.
And Nader, I don't know if you know the answer off the top of your head or in the bill. Do we know where the Bulls are supposedly picking if the draft were to be tomorrow or if the season?
Well, it's a lottery, but I think we're in the top. I don't think we're in the top 3 lottery, but we're outside.
But so it's a lottery pick, which is great.
Yeah, we're in the lottery.
So, that definitely gives you more leverage when you're talking about trading one of your pieces because you can find another piece almost immediately in that sense, which is great for the Bulls. And I think now is a good time to make that change of, hey, it's been 10 years, 22 years, let's move on.
I think the only piece that may not get moved will be Kobe White just because he was just drafted. But even him, he could be available for the right price.
I don't really even know if he has much value as compared to the other pieces that you mentioned, because he's just so fresh off his collegiate career. So I mean, and changing a GM like we saw in Atlanta here with Travis Schlenk, it just completely facelifts the entire franchise. So most likely, it's going to come with the new head coach, and it's going to come with the new mindset of how they're going to draft and what kind of players they're going to target.
Yeah. I just want them – the one thing that I've always hated about the Bulls for the past few years is they couldn't stick with the plan. They wanted the tank, but then they go on a 5-game winning streak and they change their plan in the middle of the year. That never works out. So I'm just hoping they can stick to a plan.
And as it stands currently, if the season ended today, they would be the 7th worst team. So they're bottom 10, and they're the 7th worst. The Golden State Warriors obviously being the worst team. So they'd be running they'd have the most lottery picks.
Swear to God, if the Warriors have the number 1 pick in the draft.
We're gonna talk a lot about NBA draft soon, and we're gonna talk about a lot about the Bulls in the next few weeks, because we are gonna watch that Jordan documentary on ESPN. We're gonna do the watch along. We're gonna do the reaction. It's gonna be great.
Hey guys, I think my can is leaking.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Something else leaked this week, didn't it, Asif?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Talking about a face change, a lift of face.
Yeah.
The Falcons have new uniforms.
Oh yeah. So the Falcons got some new uniforms, and they have about 16 different variations apparently. But obviously, we know that there's like the main 3 or 4 that most teams run through. So we got the all-white road uniforms, the all-black home uniforms, the red and black gradient uniforms, so top half red, bottom half black, like an old FUBU jersey.
You like that one?
Which is one of the best memes I've seen about the whole thing.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite one so far.
I like that.
Very unique.
But I want a petition that they have to wear their jersey backwards when they wear it. So it has to be the name on the front and a V on the back.
Hell yeah. And then they upgraded the throwback uniforms. Honestly, the throwback uniform looks the exact same to me, but Ursulon
the best.
And to be honest, I'm very happy with that because I won't have to buy a new one.
Right, yeah, there you go. I actually have a throwback Matt Ryan jersey, so I don't need to buy that either. Which I got for Secret
Chris Chandler
Santa,
jersey, same thing.
What?
I have a throwback Chris Chandler.
Oh yeah. Yo, let me get that. Let me hold that.
Nah, let me find it.
Yeah, I'll trade you for a watch, bro. No, all right. So first things first. I mean, we'll talk about the uniforms. One thing I want to say about the uniforms is I love that it says ATL on the front. We got the 3 letters on the front. The white uniforms look super clean. The black uniforms grew on me when I first saw them. I was like, I don't know, but I think once we see them in action, and the more I look at them, the more I like them. Even the red ones too. I'm actually really curious to see how the red and black gradient uniforms look when the players are flying around and hitting people and stuff like that. So I'm okay with it. I mean, it's something to get excited about. And as a matter of fact, Nabil, like you said, the uniforms leaked, and so presumably that's why the uniform release was pushed up a week. Otherwise, the new gear goes online tomorrow, April 14th. So maybe that's something we'll put on the Twitter polls. Are you going to buy the new Falcons jersey? I've seen some jersey hoodies that look pretty cool, actually. I don't know if you guys have seen those. We try to find those and post those here. But what do y'all think? Ursulon, you go first since you've got the Falcons uniform on.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the white on white is probably my favorite as well. It's just super clean, and it's to the point. And I think Tampa Bay released jerseys, and I heard the Colts released their jerseys today. So a lot of teams are kind of going with a more simpler, more contemporary look. And I think the Falcons did a lot of that same thing, going with that same theme. So it kind of fits the mold of what the NFL jerseys are supposed to look like now. But I think, yeah, I agree. It's the white's the cleanest. I'm excited to see what the red and black looks like, and I'm glad the old school stayed the way it is.
There you go.
Can I ask a question? Do you guys think the Cardinals are going to release jerseys next week that look exactly like the Falcons jerseys? Because that's what happened last time, right?
Well, and I don't know this officially. Hopefully we can find out. But I would think that – what?
I was making a bad joke. Do you guys remember the old Falcons jerseys? They released them, and like a month later, the Cardinals released their jerseys, and they look exactly the same.
Some people have said that, yeah. I just want to say, I would think that all these uniform changes and whatnot have to be approved by the league office, right? So, like, at some point, there has to be somebody at Roger Goodell's office or who reports to him or that executive staff at the NFL that says, like, okay, we're signing off on this new uniform. I don't think teams can just put it out without it being approved. So it'd be really interesting to see, though, what other teams do come up with and how similar they are to the Falcons new uniforms, because apparently the Browns might put out some new ones too. So we got 4 potentially new uniforms for next season.
I mean, the Cardinals are basically the Falcons anyways. They steal all of our players, and even their hashtag is Rise Up Red Sea. So it's
so unoriginal. There's a weird bird.
I think my favorite thing about the new uniform release is the helmets. The helmets are so clean. The logo has the silver outline on the helmets now, which I think is really nice. I think that's like my favorite thing. Yeah. I
do think the Falcons should steer into the skid and send a jersey to Adam Sandler just because it looks just like the what is it, Mean Machine?
Mean Machines, yeah.
Just send him a jersey, you know.
Yeah. Did you guys see the Twitter post by the Panthers?
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, they were the ones that highlighted the Mean Machine one, which was funny. I think the other one's the Buccaneers. Do you guys like the Bucs jerseys? I know we're not Bucs, but the Bucs jersey.
You know what? I don't. I wish they would have gone with the creamsicles.
I think they'll have the creamsicles, but I like
their primary jersey, the creamsicles.
Can you imagine Brady wearing that?
Listen, the creamsicles was way ahead of its time.
Yeah, those. I'm not gonna lie, those are pretty fire. Like, some people say they're the ugliest uniforms in NFL history, but like, bring that back. I bet it'll sell like crazy.
That'll be the Steelers' bumblebee.
It was just ahead of its time.
No, and well, the Bucs uniform to me looks like exactly like the old ones. Like, I honestly can't really tell much of a difference. Yeah. Whereas the Falcons uniforms, you can tell, okay, this is new, this is different. I mean, the Falcons were home red for as long as I can remember, you know, at least for like the last 10, 11, 12 years. And now they're going to be all black at home. So black out every home game, which, I mean, certainly will help create some sort of home field advantage. You would think so.
Especially if everyone else blacks out as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Always, man. I'm ready. After this pandemic is over, that's the first thing on my to-do list is to black out at a tailgate.
You should black out before the pandemic is over.
No, but now that you brought up Tampa Bay and Tom Brady, and so I just want to say I posted a Twitter poll for us this week. We said because Tom Brady trademarked 2 things. He trademarked Tampa Bay and Tampa Brady. And I put out a Twitter poll, and we've got 1 hour and 55 minutes left on it. We got 34 votes. Shout out to a handful of people who retweeted this for us. But right now, Tampa Brady is leading the preference for people with 56% of the vote, and then Tampa Bay has 44%. Do you guys have any input on which one you like or don't like?
I'm just happy that Tom Brady does dad jokes. I mean, boom, mic drop. Tom Brady doing a dad joke. I mean, what else do you want in life?
You know what's crazy is, Nabil, I remember when we were talking about the Bears this offseason, talking about they might need to get a new quarterback, or it's likely. I talked about Cam Newton going to Chicago because the C on the helmet would be a marketing goldmine. And surely Tom Brady took some of that into consideration when he chose Tampa Bay and the TV. Obviously, Cam Newton is not going to Chicago anymore. Nope. But you got to think that stuff like this nowadays plays a factor because these guys can make money off their brand, off their trademark. And it's not just what they make on the field, it's what they can make off the field. And so obviously that's not the only reason Brady went to Tampa, but it certainly doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
You know?
Did you see what he said about Drew Brees?
Drew Orleans.
I don't understand why he didn't trademark Drew Orleans many years ago. I'm just like, I'm loving these dad jokes.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I'm excited to see what else he comes up with while he's on. I guess not even while he's on Tampa Bay, but like once he leaves, and like obviously he's gonna get into some sort of broadcasting role. And I'm just excited to see what he says in that broadcasting role. Also, speaking of broadcasting role, I don't know if you guys saw that Drew Brees confirmed he would join NBC Sports after he retires. I thought that was cool. I'm excited to see him up there. But in other news, what we're excited to see coming up in the next few weeks, which we're all ready to talk about, is the NFL draft.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. The hand rub is happening.
I mean,
Yeah.
For those of you that watch this video,
too,
showing how to clean, wash your
you gotta
hands.
get the wrist.
You gotta get the
Before you
wrist.
virtually make the pick.
There you go. Yeah.
But we have the upcoming draft, and we have two individual draft experts, or three individual draft experts, two for the Falcons, one for the Bears.
We'll say like 2.5. I'll give myself half credit. Urslan is here to back me up for the Falcons draft perspective today, because I had to bring the reinforcements because Nabil knows he always comes with it. So as you were now there.
So just with that said, what are we looking for? What's happening? I guess to put a slight intro and maybe throw in a wild card no one expected. I saw earlier that there are rumors that the Falcons may be trading up to pick a QB for the 2020 draft. And then I saw this wild rumor, or like this crazy idea. I'm going to run it by you guys. Maybe we'll throw in a little nonsense right now. But there's this crazy idea that Bill O'Brien might be interested in trading Deshaun Watson and a trade for Matt Ryan so that the Falcons can get younger at quarterback. It's a little crazy. What are your thoughts? Thoughts? Could Bill O'Brien pull this off? I mean, he's been pulling off some.
Well, all right. So before these guys unleash, because this draft stuff is going to be great. If you're a football nerd, this is the best episode ever. But I'll say I hadn't heard about the Bill O'Brien, Deshaun Watson thing. I'll say that I'm okay with that. I love Matt Ryan. I think he's great. I know he's an elite quarterback. If the Falcons could somehow get Deshaun Watson, it's too little, too late. I also don't think with no off-season program, presumably, we're not going to have OTAs in July. You need the continuity. I would rather have Matt Ryan going into the season in the same system. But if the world was normal right now and Deshaun Watson was a possibility for Atlanta, I mean, I would be open to it. I don't think I would do it still, but I would definitely be interested in hearing more about that. As for the Falcons trading up to get a quarterback, I mean, at some point you are going to have to replace Matt Ryan. There are some prospects you could get. I just don't want them to trade up to do it. I don't want the Falcons to trade up to get anybody in this draft unless it's absolutely necessary. But I'm going to hand it over to the draft experts over here because they know more about that than I do.
Yeah, I mean, just to put it to bed, I mean, just considering where the front office is right now, and they were pretty much fighting for their life the second half of the season. That's why we won the games that we did. But it doesn't make sense to start off with a new quarterback, especially since you've invested so much capital into the offense, and you probably want your offensive coordinator to be with someone who's familiar. So it's one of those things that come up before the draft, just like shake things up and just get everyone thinking. But if this happens, I don't even know. It's such a bad rumor.
Hey, Nabil and Nader would tell you, Urslan, you sent us an April Fool's Day thing when you said that Calvin Ridley got traded to the Raiders. And I started freaking out, dude. You can ask them. I was, furious. I was like, are you kidding me? We can't do this right now. So you talk about smoke and mirrors and stuff like that, man. This is not an April Fool's joke. This is serious, and I'm not okay with it. I'm on your side.
So before we actually get into real stuff, Nader, where did you see this rumor? Was it on a Facebook post by some Falcons Facebook stuff? This is the
No, I think I saw it just on Twitter randomly.
Yeah.
Was it a blue check mark?
Huh?
Was there a blue check mark? What
I
was
think it was just a crazy idea tossed up. It was someone's reaction to the fact that the Falcons are trading up, and this was an idea they were pitching out. It's not an official rumor. It's just a crazy idea that they were pitching out to the reaction.
Okay. Nader, you're fake news. And just to respond to that, that can't happen. Let's say it even wanted to happen for salary cap purposes. It can't happen. Matt Ryan's dead money is so now I'm not going to say it's bad because he's still a reasonably paid quarterback, but the dead money is so crazy on Matt Ryan's contract right now that if the Falcons were to trade him, they'd have to cut 5 players on top of that just to be in league standards.
Wow.
Yeah. They'd be over.
And also, just a thought that I had. Sorry, Nabil. Just a thought that I had. Is Matt Ryan really trying to go back to Houston, where the site of the Super Bowl happened, and play every game?
That doesn't matter.
I know it doesn't matter, but I don't think that he would be okay with that. Period.
Well, no, he was okay with getting traded.
Yeah, he wouldn't be okay with getting traded at all. He is the face of Atlanta. I mean, pretty much the Falcons. So there's no absolute way you trade
He may go down as the best Falcon in history. So he's not getting traded.
There's no absolute way. Like it's just the worst rumor that like you could have worked a little bit harder. You know, like whoever did it on Twitter, like at least make it believable.
No. It's not the person on Twitter's fault. It's Nother's fault.
Why not? I mean, I think it's crazy, but it's one of those with Bill O'Brien. It's Bill O'Brien. It's like one of those things that's just crazy enough that it may happen. You never know.
Hey, that's why y'all call it nonsense. So.
Yeah, that's also why it's nonsense. It's just crazy. What if the world was burning down tomorrow and you traded Matt Ryan for Deshaun Watson?
You know what, Nother? You're 0 for 2 for the last Nother's nonsenses. I'm sorry.
The last one was a good one. You're just
the last one you took from ESPN.
It doesn't matter. It was genius. It was brilliant.
You're a teacher. You cheated.
I did not cheat. I was just bringing new knowledge to your attention. If someone walks out, like the math problem, right? Someone buys 12 watermelons. No one buys 12 watermelons. It just doesn't exist.
Well, speaking of new knowledge, this time you guys have mock draft stuff ready to go, right? Is that right?
I got some stuff.
What do you got?
First, how about you start off?
Well, since we actually have a first-round pick,
yeah,
maybe.
So
just kind of going off of your guys' recent episodes and what's been going on with the shifting of the draft orders and the draft board and a lot of teams, and specifically to the Falcons' needs. I mean, we were talking about what are our most immediate needs, and obviously I think the most glaring hole is cornerback, especially since we signed Dante Fowler. We have something that we think is going to work on the defensive line. We have a Pro Bowler in Grady Jarrett, and then we still have a first-round pick in Tack McKinley, who to this point hasn't been what we were hoping he would be, but he's had a lot of injury issues. So I think the cornerback position is such a glaring need, and I want to throw a name out there that just I think works in terms of best player available, where the Falcons are drafting now, and some of the NFL analysts are sort of keep coming back to this name with the 16th pick, and that's C.J. Henderson from Florida. Now, C.J. Henderson, I think why he's so popular in terms of being mocked to the Falcons is because it makes so much sense. The guy's fluid, NFL ready. I mean, he reminds you a lot of kind of what Trufant was coming out of college. He was very fluid with his hips. His technique was on par. I mean, he's not extremely big, but he is 6'1", 6'2".
No,
so I don't think he's
for a corner. He's 6'2".
Yeah, so it's not small, but I mean, there's corners coming out that are 6'2", 6'3" now. So now, you're going up against receivers that are 6'4". So you're going to have some size. So with all that going for him, and then he ran a 4.39, I think he just makes so much sense. Some other players, I think, Asif, you mentioned Chason, makes a lot of sense. I just see a lot of these defensive ends kind of falling in the draft. In a lot of mock drafts, they're not stagnant. They're kind of on and off. They fall to 20 plus, like Chason. You talk about AJ Epinesa. And then even and then there's some names out there that you could get probably later on that I'll mention. But I think the two, AJ Epinesa and Chason, are not probably the best player available there. So I like C.J. Henderson.
Well, and I'll add, in my updated mock draft, I'm actually more on board with the Henderson train right now for the 16th pick for the Falcons. Just the more I think about it, it seems like it's a better fit and it makes more sense. And you're not going to have to give up anything to get him, if at all. He should fall right to you, which is what you want if you're the Falcons, at least as a fan.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. I'll let Nabil speak to it a little bit, but I just want to throw out some other names, at least in the first round, that could also potentially happen. Obviously, AJ Epinesa, I think it's a good value if the Falcons do decide to trade down, because Epinesa is falling, and if we get him somewhere late in the first round, I think that's a great trade for them. Other names like this is a great name, by the way. It's Yetur Gross-Matos. It's Yetur Gross-Matos. So the guy's a little raw, but freakish athlete. And, he's really long, and he could play defensive end, I think, in a 4-3 pretty well. So I like him. And then if we do decide to take corner later on, some names to look out for: Kristen Fulton from LSU.
He made some plays in the national championship game.
He did, and he actually had a lot of pass breakups, and I think he also has some size. Probably not as fluid as Henderson, and we'll need some work. But going with that regard, if you want to take a cornerback with your second pick or move down to take a cornerback, you can also look at Trayvon Diggs. Staying with the SEC trend, guy played for Alabama, played for Nick Saban. Again, a freakish athlete. He's the brother of Stephon Diggs. But he played receiver when he came into Alabama, and then switched to cornerback. And I think if they want to go with more of a project, someone they have to develop, then these two names would work out for them as well.
So, love those information, love those players. I think what the Falcons need to do is trade back.
Yeah.
They're stuck in the middle where you're going to get talent that you're not essentially overdrafting, but the top player is already gone. And in the middle, it's kind of like best player available mixed with need.
Yeah.
I think they could trade down and get a corner that will work out just as well for them in A.J. Terrell. Maybe even in the second round. They don't even have to get him in the first round. And in terms of the rumor of the quarterback, this is what I want to see. I want to see the Falcons in the second. I want to see them trade back in the first, pick up an additional third-round pick, trade up into the second round with their additional third-round pick, and get Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts on Atlanta would be awesome. I wouldn't mind him in Chicago either, but I think in Atlanta he'd be awesome. One, because it gives them a dynamic quarterback behind Matt Ryan. Not saying that Matt Ryan shouldn't be the starter. He should be the starter. Matt Ryan is way better than the majority of the quarterbacks in the league. But Jalen Hurts is a quarterback that you saw change up completely last year in a different system with Lincoln Riley. I think he threw almost 50 touchdowns. You get Jalen Hurts in that system for a couple of years. By the time he's ready, Julio Jones may actually be gone. It'll be a new era of Falcons football.
Well, and does Jalen Hurts have experience playing with Calvin Ridley? Yeah, right? He should.
Yeah, Calvin Ridley, he does.
There you go.
But I just think Jalen Hurts would be an awesome quarterback to have. I was always making the Jake Fromm to Atlanta joke just because it just fits. But I think Jalen Hurts would be an awesome quarterback to get. And another player that I think Atlanta should look at, late second, maybe third, Cole Kmet. Hey, I know you rolled the dice with Hayden Hurst, and that may work out. But Cole Kmet is a type of tight end that Matt Ryan loves. And I think that'd be a perfect tight end to get.
No, I think the problem with – I agree that Jalen Hurst in Atlanta could be potentially dangerous down the road. But kind of seeing the picture as to where the front office is right now and the kind of hot seat that Dan Quinn and both Thomas Dimitroff are in, they're not – I don't think they're going to make a pick for the future. I think they're going to make a pick that helps them right now, like they did in the 2016 season where we got Deion Jones, we got Grady Jarrett, I think we got Keanu Neal. I don't know if we got – Grady was the year before, but we got Keanu Neal, Deion Jones, and then Devondre Campbell. We got 3 starters out of that draft. They're looking to have that same impact this year where they can get 3 starters or capable starters in those drafts. They can help them win now because that's what's going to help them stay and keep their jobs. So that's why I feel like it's a little hard for me to imagine that happening.
Right, but one thing I'm going to bring in is this quarantine COVID-19 thing, which is always going to be a factor. You can't look at all the players this year, but you know who you have a lot of tape on? Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Like, hey, look, I can roll the dice on this linebacker from BYU, and maybe he'll be awesome. But you know what? I haven't even met the guy. Jalen Hurts been in my backyard. Hell, he won a national championship sitting on the bench, but in my stadium.
Well, he won the SEC championship in that same stadium, too.
Yeah.
He has a lot of experience playing in Atlanta.
like I'm just saying, like, hey, all their scouts have seen Jalen Hurts enough. It may be like, look, we can roll the dice on this guy, and then maybe he'll be good. But Jalen Hurts, we know well.
Okay, so Nabil, here's a question for you, and Urslan, feel free to answer this too, because I'm like I said, I'm not opposed to the Falcons drafting a quarterback in this draft. However, you have needs that you need to address. You need to get a cornerback, and you need to get another pass rusher, and ideally another offensive lineman who can start, if not right away, at least step in the middle of the season if necessary for a few reps, if not a few games, because that's what happens in the NFL. One. So once you get those three needs addressed, which should be first and foremost, then you can maybe take a gamble. Now, and with Jalen Hurts, it wouldn't be a gamble in the bill. You're right, because you've seen that he can do it. He's played on the big stage. He has experience with your second best receiver. Fourth, fifth round for Jalen Hurts. I don't want to trade and do the trade that you said, but when do you think Jalen Hurts might come off the board? Because this is supposedly a quarterback-heavy draft. So you think third round?
I think third round at the latest. It might be second round. I can also see Pittsburgh going after Jalen Hurts.
I think that would be a great move.
That would be a good fit. I can also see Dallas going after Jalen Hurts. Look, the Dak Prescott contract, even though it's supposed to happen, hasn't happened yet.
Well, you heard what happened with the news that broke recently, right?
I
Dak
saw
Prescott
there
had a
before
party.
He threw a party.
Yeah, threw a house party during quarantine. So, yeah, I don't know if they want to invest all that capital in someone.
Hey, man, everything's bigger in Texas. They got enough room for distancing out there, I'm sure. You know,
yeah, they're limited to 20 people.
Right.
Well, but the thing is, in Texas, you have to do 8 feet, not 6 feet. Everything's bigger. Even
bigger.
Social distancing.
Interesting. And so what I'm hearing is, I think from both of you guys' discussions, unless Hurts gets picked up by the Falcons, I'm hearing that majority of the picks are still going to go on the defensive end for the Falcons on like trying to find needs that they can fit.
Well,
unless I heard a tight end and a possible future quarterback.
I also think that if DeAndre Swift is sitting there in the second round, if Jonathan Taylor's in the second round, Falcons have to. Look, Todd Gurley was a good signing. I'm not going to say great. It was a good signing, a good gamble. You still don't know what's going on with his knees. I would say if you see Jonathan Taylor sitting there in the second round, if you see a DeAndre Swift there in the second round, you have to take him.
But I think that comes back to the point on what they do with the first. If they trade back and get an extra third, then I'm much more okay with them taking a running back or investing in the offense in the first 3 rounds. But if you have 4 picks in the first 3 rounds, that's better than having 3 picks. And now you're investing a lot of capital into offense, which is, one of the highest paid offense has to be in the NFL. 11 first-round picks. It's nuts. So you put a lot of your free agency dollars towards your offense just to give Dan Quinn the ability to find that hidden gem that he's been able to find. He's shown that he's been able to find. And obviously with the COVID-19, it's a little uneasy, but that's for all the other 32 teams as well.
Yeah.
So I think you have to. It just depends on where the opportunity hits, and the draft can fall anywhere. It's just to kind of come back to our pick right now at 16. If we do stay put, I only see 2 players that are worth the draft capital and that are worth taking at that position, and that's C.J. Henderson and Javon Kinlaw, and those are more realistic picks. I would like Derek Brown from the defensive tackle from Auburn. He's not falling to us. I would love to have Jeffrey Okudah, but he's going to go probably top 6 at least. So realistically, those 2 picks make sense if we stay put. Otherwise, I would definitely want to either move back, and from what I'm hearing, we're interested in moving up. So we'll see.
Urslan, quick question for you, and Nabil, I'll let you take over after that. But if you have – I don't think Kinlaw will be there at 16. I would think, for me personally, I want somebody who can get after the quarterback in this draft. I don't care if it's first round, second round, third round. You need somebody who can at least go do it right away. But if you have to pick between Henderson and Kinlaw at 16, who are you taking?
I think that scenario is just not realistic because either there's going to be a run on cornerbacks or there's going to have to be a run on receivers, quarterbacks. There's going to have to be a run on cornerbacks, receiver, and quarterbacks for Kinlaw to fall to us, but it's a possibility. if those positions are highly touted and people trade up in front of us, I don't know. I don't see anyone trading up for Kinlaw. So it's possible that he does fall to us. I think he's too good of a talent to pass up. He's still a little raw, but I mean,
that's what I want. You want somebody who's raw who can be molded to fit your system. I would think so.
Yeah, the kind of potential that kid has. I mean, that's scary, you know. So I think if you're not taking C.J. Henderson, Kinlaw is a great option. And then obviously Chason, I think, would be my number 3 if you go with that. So
I was just gonna say Chason is another name that's been tossed out and tied in with the Falcons a few times on some of the mock drafts that I've looked at.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Right.
Any dark horse picks for the Falcons first round?
I don't have the Calvin Ridley feather in my cap this year, but
any bold predictions?
Well, I think the quarterback in second round is quite bold.
Yeah,
and I think the DeAndre Swift pick is too.
I think Falcons should trade down. I mean, I've always been a fan of trading down. Everyone knows that. I always think that you should trade unless you have a top 5 pick that you're going to know for sure is going to be good. I think you should always trade down. And there's just so much talent in the draft. I wouldn't be surprised if Falcons do come out of this draft with a quarterback, though. Somewhere. It can be a Jake Fromm. I don't know. I can just see. Just because I don't think Matt Schaub, he did that one game great with Seattle. But at this point, Dan Quinn needs an insurance policy for the season in case Matt Ryan goes down.
Yeah. Of course.
And you want somebody who can learn behind Matt Ryan, right? In addition to all that other stuff, too. Like, let's get this person, like Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre, for example. You had a couple years to become one of the best quarterbacks of all time, learning behind one of the best quarterbacks of all time.
Also, so I think found out Jacob Eason. Jacob Eason's going to be on the board.
Well, the thing about Eason that worries me is I feel like New Orleans, that's a prime spot for him because he can go there and learn from Drew Brees, learn with Sean Payton, and have guys like Emmanuel Sanders and Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, frankly, to like practice and throw the ball around with and get comfortable with. So that way, when Drew Brees retires, if not next year, then 2 years from now, Eason is primed and ready to go, and they're not going to miss a beat.
They still like that. What's that? What's his name?
Hill.
Taysom Hill. Hill is supposedly still their future. I don't.
But that's a gadget player at best.
I hope that's the quarterback of their future. I really do. We're looking pretty good. That's the case.
I just want to add, I would love Fulton, the kid Fulton from LSU for Atlanta. Like if we somehow get Kinlaw and in the first round somehow, like you said, there's a run on all these other positions. I would love to take Kinlaw in the first and then Fulton in the second because I think that's the guy who not only is good enough but has experience playing more than the 13-14 game season, right? Because he played the 2 playoff games, so he kind of has that conditioning. 1, and then 2, the national championship experience, the caliber of competition that he's played against. Ohio State, Clemson, LSU, Alabama. I mean, he knows what it's like to play against guys who are next level talent already, and he's shown that he can make plays against them. That's who I would say. I don't even know if you could call him a dark horse pick because he is that good, but if the Falcons could snatch him, I would much rather have him over Jake Fromm, let's say.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. And right now, I think Fulton has a first to second round grade on a lot of teams' boards. So, like I said, if C.J. Henderson falls later than expected, I think Fulton could potentially slip into the late 20s, maybe even the second round. It's possible. It just depends on, So it's possible for us to do what we did last year, pick where we picked and jump back into the first and address our 2 big needs with defensive end and cornerback, which would be – I would be thrilled if we pulled something like that off.
I agree. Nabil, go for it.
All right, so you're probably wondering why I haven't talked about Chicago that much. Well, we don't have a first-round pick. Khalil Mack, which is in Hall of Fame. We do have 2 second-round picks, though, which I think we could do some damage with. I do think we need to trade one of those back. Again, you see a trend. I need more picks, right? I think we need to trade back one of those picks to get a 3rd rounder, maybe a 4th rounder or something. There's a lot of needs. But one player that I really want us to hopefully get, but it might be too much wishful thinking, is a Grant DeLipt, the safety from LSU. Now, I don't know why he's supposedly available in the second round, because he isn't in the box safety, but he can play both. And you saw LSU's defense this year; it was legit. So I don't know. I don't know why he might be there in a second, but if he's there in the second, I think you got to take him. I also think if we trade back in the second round, we can get Isaiah Wilson, offensive tackle from UGA. I mean, UGA, you see the O-line, hey, they knock out running backs every year like they're nothing. Because the running backs are all that good. It's because the O-line is amazing. Now, hey, the running backs have talent, but running back with no O-line is nothing. So Isaiah Wilson is going to be a great option, along with Lloyd Cushberry, center from LSU. Again,
that's an awesome name.
SEC right over here. One dark horse player is Jeremy Shin from NIU, I think. He's also a safety, like Grant DeLipt. So these are players in the second round. You have to kind of – this year for the Bears fans, first round's not going to be as fun. I actually hope it's not fun. If the Bears trade up in the first round, I'm going to be so pissed. I'm going to be so pissed.
If they end up with a star quarterback in the first round, you're still not happy with that?
Okay. I can give you one very, very specific scenario. Tua's falling because of health concerns. He's falling. It gets to 15, still falling. Gets to 21. So I'm wondering, why is no one taking Tua? If they're at 26 and for some reason Tua's on the board, Chicago should call.
Okay.
Outside of that, it's that very specific scenario. No.
Nabil, are you telling me
in the first round?
Nabil, are you telling me you'd rather have Tua over Jacob Eason, or is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, I would rather have Tua over Jacob Eason.
Why is that?
He's the better quarterback.
You think so?
You tell me. Do you think Eason's better?
Well, I would think Eason can be groomed. I think Eason has a body to play in the NFL. He has an arm to play in the NFL. Tua is good, but like you said, there's the injuries. He's a short guy. I mean, he's not that tall, frankly.
First of all, Nick Saban used up Tua at Alabama. Everyone knew Tua shouldn't have played last year, Tua shouldn't have been in half the games he was playing.
Mm-hmm.
I put that directly on Nick Saban.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But also, I would think, too, when you look at the games that Tua was healthy, he did not play well against elite competition in that same league. And granted, Jacob Eason didn't play against SEC competition really either in the Pac-12. However, I would think when you look at NFL readiness and next-level NFL quarterback, I mean, there's a guy from Oregon State, Jacob Luton, that I think would actually be a great pick for the Falcons if you're going to take a quarterback. This guy's like 6'2", 6'3", if not big, strong body. The only thing that he needs to work on are his mechanics, which NFL conditioning can fix for you. I'm willing to take on a project like that, or like a guy like Jacob Eason, who has the physical intangibles that you cannot groom somebody to have and make him become your guy. But Tua's not a bad pick at all. I mean, he's got a great touch. I see him, I think, of Russell Wilson.
Yeah, and I think you'll get that comparison a lot. You'll get that Tua to Russell Wilson comparison all the time. I mean, we've seen in the league that short quarterbacks can have success, and they've shown that they can be very successful. They can win Super Bowls. You've seen it with Drew Brees. You've seen it with Russell Wilson. Baker Mayfield's not doing too bad either. So I think Tua is just rated higher. You have to go with something that's more of a sure pick there. And obviously you have more tape on Tua, and you have Tua playing against actual SEC competition. So that's I kind of see why Tua would be a more sensible pick than trying to get a project. Adding a Jacob Eason into your quarterback herd that's already full of uncertainties, it doesn't make sense to me for Chicago.
Well, I don't think Chicago should be looking at a quarterback, period, just for the record. But because Nabil mentioned it in this scenario, I would think that there's
Why
some
shouldn't we be
consideration
looking at a quarterback?
What?
Why shouldn't we be looking at a quarterback?
Big Dick Nick, bro.
Yeah.
Okay. How long are we going to have Big Dick Nick for?
Max 2 years. I don't even think he'll make it to the second year if he doesn't win a Super Bowl or make the playoffs in the first season.
I mean, and I don't think Mitch is going to be here very much longer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me ask you: if Tua didn't have this injury concern, where would he be drafted?
Oh, top 5, easy. Top 3, maybe.
He might arguably be number 1. He may have still gone over Joe Burrow without this injury concern.
Yeah.
Because Joe Burrow may not have won the national championship if Tua never got hurt.
Right. Very true.
It's all possible.
If Tua fall, and I don't think he's going to fall, but that is the only player. Like I was looking through like mock drafts, because every year there's a player that falls in a draft.
Yeah.
And I couldn't figure it out this year. Could be Tua.
Okay, and then Bill, my other question to you real fast is then you said trading back. You're in favor of trading back, right? But when you're in the second round and then you're only in the second round to start with, and then you're trading back from that, you think that you're diminishing yourself from better talent when you trade back, because already by the time you get to the second round, the best talent theoretically is gone. Now, if you're taking yourself out of that picture, you're only opening yourself up to less qualified talent. Would you say that trading back could hurt you because you're choosing from a smaller pool of talent then?
So, okay, the draft, as much research you do in the draft, it's a gamble. 50% of first-round picks don't work out. When you're in the second round, that goes to probably 70% of second-round picks don't work out. Third round, you're probably at 90, and so on and so forth. Well, if I'm already in the second round, I already know I'm probably going to have a 30% success rate. I have 2 in the third round. Why not? And I'm 2 in the second round, and they're both late second round. I'd rather mitigate my risk and get additional picks, because if I gamble on one person, yeah, that could work out. If I gamble on 2, I have a higher chance. 3, even a higher chance.
Yeah. Go ahead, finish up your thought.
No, go ahead. I was done.
No, I just want to. I mean, I agree with that strategy. It makes sense. People do with the NBA, right? They talk about the more picks you have, the more chance you have at hitting. And I think when you get to the second round of the NFL, like you mentioned, unless you have something where a player is fallen that has a first-round grade, and now you're in the second round sitting like, oh, man, I can take this player who has a first-round grade, and that percentage of hitting goes back to 50 rather than 70 in the second round, then that makes sense. But when you're talking about top of second round and bottom of second round, a lot of players can go really anywhere in that range. So where you can take a person from the bottom, take a player at the bottom of your second round, why not just collect an extra pick and take an extra chance, like you said, to maybe hit and later at a round? Because, I mean, you can always hit. You just have to make the right pick.
Right. And, like, the good GMs always do best player available. But, again, this also comes back to COVID. Everything I'm saying is going to come back to COVID. Everyone's going to be playing more safe, more guarded. You're going to see the big school name players get drafted earlier. You're going to see the smaller schools get drafted later. Yeah. And you're going to see some great steals in this draft. You're going to see someone go in the 6th round, and you're going to be like, this is the next Kittle. Oh, this is the next Diggs. You're not even like, because everyone's going to be too scared to draft a player too early because they haven't met the person.
Yeah.
I mean, every player in this draft, like, is almost $1 million deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't seem that big every year just because it's normal. But the interviews they go through is very intensive. Well, this year you can't do half the fucking interviews. So
or tryouts, really, right? I think that's
there's no tryouts either. There's nothing.
Yeah. Okay, my question to you, and this is a neutral question. So presumably Joe Burrow goes number 1, probably as he should, right? The Bengals need a quarterback. The guy from Ohio, number 1. Chase Young goes number 2 because he's the next best player available on the board. Who goes 3 and who goes 4? And I say and 4 because maybe you think, okay, the Lions are 3rd and then the Giants are 4th. So my question to both of you to wrap up this segment is who goes 3 and who goes 4, or who goes 3rd, whichever one you want to answer. Once again, the Lions have the 3rd pick and then the Giants have the 4th pick.
I'm thinking there's going to be trades.
Okay.
I think number 4. So 3 and 4, one of those two is going to be a quarterback. Either Herbert or Tua will go between 3 and 4. I don't know which one yet. One of those two will be drafted at either 3 or 4.
Okay. I would think, and just a response to that, I would think the quarterback would go third for the Lions because you guys have the Giants have the kid Sam from Duke or whatever, Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Danny Dimes.
Danny
So
Dimes.
I would think that the Giants wouldn't prioritize the quarterback this early, but the Lions certainly could and probably should.
I think it's going to be a trade. And the team that's going to trade is going to be the Dolphins. Dolphins are going to trade up for a quarterback. I'm not sure which one, but they're going to trade up for a quarterback.
I think it's between the Dolphins and the Chargers. I think the Chargers are absolutely in play, having the 6th overall pick. I mean, I agree. If the concerns with Tua just continue, then it's gonna be it's gonna be Herbert. But I think the quarterback is going number 3.
Okay, I like that. And
Okay.
Nader, you had another question?
Yeah, and so I guess my only other question is, Nabil, obviously, unless we're trading up for Tua, then what other quarterbacks do you see possibly falling to the Bears later? And at any point, I saw one mock draft on CBS which had the Bears taking with their second round pick Jacob Eason. I don't know if that's possible, but is that the other name you would like to see? What are the other quarterbacks that are kind of floating around out there for us?
Jacob Eason would be an awesome quarterback to draft. So a little background, Jacob Eason, he's the son of Tony Eason. Tony Eason was the quarterback of the 1985 New England Patriots. Why does that sound familiar? Yes, because he lost to the 85 Bears in the Super Bowl. So that'd be kind of cool to see that happen. Outside of that, Jacob Eason, yeah, you saw him at UGA. He's good. He'd be an interesting quarterback to see Matt Nagy groom. I'd love to see it. I don't think it's going to happen. Jalen Hurts as well, I think would be a great quarterback to see Matt Nagy groom. Again, I don't see that happening. I see us maybe getting a quarterback later. There's been a lot of rumors around James Morgan or something like that. I think his name is James Morgan. I'll have to double check. Small school. There's also Alex Gordon from Washington. Same school as Minshew. Minshew Mania, yeah, he followed up Minshew. He's a quarterback like that, high yardage, spread offense. I mean, both of those could be cool. I've always thought we should draft a quarterback every year until we get it right. So I wouldn't mind a quarterback to get drafted a little later in the draft. But, it's a roll of a dice. We're not going to take a quarterback in the first round. If we take one in the second, I'd prefer Eason. I personally do not want Jake Fromm. But everything in my mind and my soul is telling me that Ryan Pace needs to hit his UGA quota every year for some reason. I don't know why he drafts a UGA player every fucking year, but he's going to.
Could be DeAndre Swift.
I'm hoping it's J.R. Reed in the 5th round because I think he'd be a good safety option to have for both the Bears and the Falcons. J.R. Reed, very solid, strong safety. But I feel like he's going to draft Jake Fromm in the 3rd round. He's going to trade some weird future draft pick and get Jake Fromm in the 3rd round. And then I'm going to be making Jake from State Farm jokes all my life.
You already do that.
Word. There you go.
For the record, James Morgan plays at Florida International University.
There you go. Yep. There's a lot of smoke behind the Bears. The Bears have met with him twice. Apparently, they zoomed in Instagram feed together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
They stayed in those DMs.
Yep.
There you go. Well, the draft is 10 days from now. I just want to say that earlier today I watched NFL Live on ESPN, and they showed Thomas Dimitroff's draft day war room. Guy has 4 monitors set up. So one TV for defensive draft picks on the left screen, one TV for offensive draft picks on the right screen. Those 2 screens are tied to 2 monitors, tablets that he has on his desk. One for defensive players, one for offensive players. And then next to him on that desk are 2 phones, 2 old school phones that have all 31 teams on speed dial ready to go for draft day. should a trade be made? You got 2 phones, not just one. But all 31 teams are on speed dial for both phones. And you've got the traditional conference room speakerphone that he's going to be talking to Dan Quinn, Arthur Blank, Rich McKay, and other Falcons executives on draft day. And they showed his war room set up on ESPN NFL Draft. I mean, it's kind of like what we've got going here, but he's actually making the decisions where we're just mocking them. So for the Falcons fans, I just had to put that out there.
I've never seen a phone with 31 buttons.
Yeah. Oh, it exists. I saw it myself, so I can verify that it exists. Yeah.
How big is the phone?
Well, it's your standard phone, you know.
How big are the buttons?
Yeah. Right? I mean, does he need?
Well, those are small because they got to fit a lot of them in there.
So he needs like a chopstick to like get the right one, like.
Hey, he said all 31 teams are programmed on speed dial already. So
maybe
that's why we didn't hire Mike McCarthy. He would definitely punch 2 buttons at once.
That's awesome. Speaking of awesome things, we also have Ursula on not just to talk about the draft, but to talk about our wonderful logo.
Can you point to it now there?
Yeah, hang on one second.
Now they're white, baby.
Right here.
Then the white move out the way. Now they're here.
The reason why that's so difficult is in order for the logo to appear correctly, I have my video mirrored, so my reactions are opposite. So like what I see on my video, it's on one end, but on the realistically, it's on the other end. And
so you have to do this.
Yeah. See what I'm saying?
I gotta point this way, and now in the bill, you gotta point that way. And Ursula, you got to point that way. Anyway, we're on YouTube.
We'll
you see the logo. If you've seen this on Spotify, if you see this on Apple Podcasts, you know this logo. And Ursula is the one who designed the logo. So not only is he a diehard Falcons fan, but he's also a great designer. And talk to us about the logo, Ursula. How did this come up?
Yeah, I think you guys approached me initially. I think it was like 3 or 4 episodes in, and you guys wanted some sort of identity. And I think before that, you had the Wrigley Field.
Yep.
As your podcast kind of logo.
Yeah, but for the record, Nabil has a Wrigley Field flag behind him. Shout out to that. That's awesome. But all 4 of us, at least the 3 of us, were there when that Wrigley Field photo was taken, and we were waiting for Nader to get there that night in Chicago. So that wasn't just a random Wrigley Field photo. Anyway, continue.
Well, all 4 of us have been to SunTrust Park, when it was SunTrust Park as well.
Right.
But anyways, just kind of getting back to what you guys, when you guys approached me, and I think Nabil was the first one to kind of share an idea, and his vision was about kind of making it friendly and kind of, almost like cartoony and kind of making it about characters, and kind of giving that vibe that you guys have on your podcast and putting it in image. And I kind of, obviously, before just kind of give my background as to what I do, I'm an architect now by trade, but before I decided to go the path that I'm on now, I was really heavily considering graphic design. I find it very awesome, entertaining, enjoyable, and I used to draw cartoons as a kid all the time. I mean, Goku, Vegeta, all of it, like everywhere, and it's really cool to kind of bring that inner child out when I started experimenting with the idea. And I shared some photos with you guys that you can share with people as well. But it was a matter of how do I put something that comes out of from a pencil or a pen and then digify it and put it in a more refined form and provide your identity with it. So it was cool. I came up with these. I think this was my 2nd or 3rd attempt at it, and trying to get the Falcon to sit with the bear being so big was kind of odd at first. But obviously the bear is larger than the Falcon, but I wanted to kind of make it so that they're kind of hand in hand. They're, both have more emphasis. So the design that I came up with there is just they're kind of just hanging out, chilling. It's hard to draw a happy Falcon. So a lot of people are like, why is the Falcon so angry? It's like, you try drawing a happy Falcon. Like it's really hard. So with that, it kind of I think merged well. And then I went with the iteration of how do I have them drinking beer, because obviously the podcast is about beer. And then just kind of obviously, kind of speaking to the size of the characters, the animals. The smaller can goes to the Falcon. The larger mug goes to the Bears. To the Bear.
I didn't even realize that the Falcon has a can in the hand. I didn't even realize that.
That's a stout.
Yeah, it's right.
Right.
Well, I see it now. But I honestly did not realize that before until literally this morning. We've been doing this for about a year now. But anyway.
Well, I'm glad I came on then, I guess.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so after that, I didn't add color by hand. I did it all on the computer. I added color. I wanted to make sure it came out right. It wasn't too imposing. And then went back and forth with what you wanted to say on the logo. Tried not doing too many colors. You want to keep a certain theme on it. So obviously going with the team colors there. And then the universal yellow gold for beer. Didn't go with the stout because,
Yo, lagers, baby. Lagers all day.
Because that would have also been confused for a soda or something,
Exactly. So I think the golden color of the beer is the most iconic and the one that everyone can relate to. And then overall, just the shape of the logo. I think all of you guys wanted to print out stickers, and that was your initial idea of, we want stickers. And from what I found, circle is the perfect shape for a sticker. So I knew at that point, I was like, it has to be circle. No matter what, it's got to be circle. So I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, and then the tagline, beer, sports, nonsense. Obviously the beer, obviously the sports, obviously the nonsense, obviously the can. Then it goes pointing out in my hand. I didn't know I had one, but I guess I'm always ready to drink beer. That's what's up. Ursan, I'll say credit to you. I give the sticker out or I post it somewhere, and people always tell me, yo, that's a sweet logo. And I always tell them, like, yo, my cousin did it. But anybody I've shown the logo to genuinely was like, yo, that's dope. And you said before, like you just said, you didn't want to make it seem like we're going head to head and like we're arguing. Like, we're friends. We're childhood friends. All of us are. And he did a great job of conveying that in the logo. I might consider getting this tattooed on my body, but maybe the loser of our fantasy league should have to do that next year.
6'9", it's right over here.
Right here.
Yeah, maybe the loser of our fantasy league should have to get this logo tattooed on them next year. That would be
funny. I would promote that one. Or like 3 Bs right here where the teardrops.
There you go.
B.
Yo, all right, we got 4 people. Ursulan didn't say yes, but we got 4 people down. We need 3 more people to confirm. The loser of our fantasy league is getting this tattooed on them next year.
No, I'll just put a sticker on temporarily.
There you go.
And tell you it's a tattoo.
Yo, temporary tattoos. That's the next thing. Not stickers, not T-shirts. Temporary tattoos from Brews.
Let's do that.
Bears, Birds, and Brews. I think we're gonna wrap up soon. I just want to say one thing real quick, and I don't know if I'm gonna beat anybody to it, but rest in peace, Tavares Jackson.
Tavares Jackson.
Yeah, we found that out today. I ruined that. Sorry, I just ruined this memory. It's whatever. It's the 8.2.
Yeah, bye.
Still, rest in peace. He did die in a car crash. Sorry, just to finish. Yesterday night, he did play for the Bears, for the Seahawks, and for the Vikings. Was he on the Bears?
Oh, he played for the Bills.
He wasn't on the Bears.
He played for the
Bills?
Tavares Jackson was on the Vikings, the Seahawks, and
the Bills.
The Jets.
The Bills?
Vikings and the Seahawks. Maybe the Bills. I'm not sure. Not the Bills.
Yeah, I'm 99% sure it's the Bills. Anyway, he was the only backup to play in the Super Bowl that the team won in like 20 years. So he was like, he died as Super Bowl champ. He played in that
Does
game.
Nick Foles count as a backup?
That's a good question.
I have 2 things to say. One, today is the anniversary of Kobe's last game. 2, there's a new show on Netflix I suggest everybody check out. It's a raunchy, kind of shitty, but a good show. It's fun to watch. Made by the creators of The League. It's called Brew Brothers, about 2 brothers who make a craft brewery. The German brewery. It's kind of it's pretty raunchy, but it's pretty funny, pretty interesting. I binge watched it over the weekend. It's fun to crack a beer open and watch some people talk about beer.
And when the Bill said it's kind of raunchy and kind of shitty, he was referring to like pretty much if you like our podcast, you're gonna like the show. That's like exactly the description.
Definitely. He has one of the guys from the league in it for a couple episodes. What was the commissioner's name, Ursulan?
Kevin?
That's Kevin in it.
No, Yeah, Kevin. I only know his character name. I don't know his actual name.
Yeah, neither do I. I think it's something Steve, maybe Steve with an R or something. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, check out the show. It's pretty cool. Outside of that, good seeing you guys, man.
There is just a couple of other things. So, Run CMC, Christian McCaffrey got a new contract extension, making him the highest paid running back in the NFL, which is very well deserved. I think he single-handedly carried the Panthers last season.
And my fantasy team to the
and Asa's fantasy team. I was just about to make that same statement. So I think Asif is going to be paying partial of his salary. Starting from next episode.
Yeah, I'll just get the BBB tattooed on my eyes.
Done. This Sunday starts the new ESPN documentary on The Last Dance, talking about the 95-96 Bulls, which we are going to talk about starting next episode. And I think we're going to close it with the last few things. Support your local breweries, wash your hands, stay safe, and license to jam.
Michael Jordan, the GOAT. Shout out Kobe Bryant. Rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. Support your local breweries.
Wash your hands. Have a good night, everyone.
At Brews.